I started my pro revenge early. I was in 6th grade and a boy who liked me harassed me constantly. I told him I did not like him. He wouldn't stop. I started being mean to him to make him leave me alone. Still he harassed me. I went to the boy's mother who sold ice cream at lunch and pled my case. I don't like your son. Please make him leave me alone. She just smiled at me and said how cute you're embarrassed that you like him right in front of him. I couldn't believe it. I was always told to go to an adult for help. I was clear to everyone that I did not like this boy. Finally at the last recess of the day I was playing on the lower field. Our school was next to a naval base and had power lines over the lower field. They were fenced off from each other. As we played jackets came off. This 12-year-old immediately hatched a plan of epic proportions. I noticed a small hole with large rocks around it. I filled his jacket with some smaller rocks and David and Goliathed his coat over the fence. I made sure he saw me do this. Recess was quickly coming to an end. So he scrambled under the fence and I quickly took the biggest rocks and filled the hole. I have always been pretty strong. I returned to class and then we were dismissed for the day. I took the bus home feeling satisfied with this petty thing, or so I thought it was. I did. I slept well. The next day I'm escorted off the bus and to the principal's office. Apparently the boy never made it home. When they found him terrified and cold late that evening he had told them I had done this to him. My parents were called. My mom asked why I did it. I explained I told him and his mother I did not like him and wanted him to leave me alone. No one would help me, so I helped myself. Needless to say, that boy finally left me alone and I managed to not get in trouble. No means no, no matter the age. A little background. When I was in middle school, in the 80s, I wasn't a cool kid, but I also wasn't a total misfit. I tended to spend a lot of my time playing games and sports. For whatever reason, there was a kid a grade above me and 3 years older thanks to staying back twice that tormented me daily. Dude would try to trip me getting on the bus. He'd snatch my backpack if I took it off at the bus stop and fling everything in it all over the ground. On the bus he'd flick my ears, try to dump my tray on me at lunch, report me to the principals for stuff that sometimes wouldn't have even been possible for me to do, all the usual annoying stuff, but also some really messed up stuff. He'd let our dog out of the yard and lead it away with snacks and get it into other people's fenced yards with bigger dogs that didn't always play nice with my little spaniel. He broke our house windows at least 3 times. He actually broke into our house once and stole my mom's panties and a couple of her bras. I know because he'd talk about them at the bus stop, which was just new. And it wasn't just me. He did stuff like this, and worse in some cases, to pretty much all of us on the block. But when we'd tell our parents no one believed us, because he was a good Christian boy whose father was a deacon at one of the big Baptist churches, and his mom was Ms. PTA and all that. Everyone accepted he was kinda dumb with school, but he walked around quoting scripture around adults enough to know them. The last straw was when he jerked off in the school bathroom and waited for me in the hall. He tried to smear his load on my face, but it wound up mostly in my hair, and he started telling everyone I blew him. I was humiliated, but I was more pissed off. That day after school I loaded up my old backpacks and my dad's duffel bag with loads of rock salt from a pile he kept behind the shed to use on the driveway during the winter. That night, I sneaked out my bedroom window and started carrying the bags to a spot on his fence line that had a bunch of mulch under a clump of trees. After, I think 4 trips, I had all the salt and began slowly pouring it out onto his lawn. When I was done, across the middle of his front yard I had spelled out "I hate you mommy." The mommy part was a little smaller because I was running out. In hindsight, I should have gone with mom, except he still called her mommy, which seemed Norman Bates weird. The salt wasn't visible on the lawn unless you were looking for it, and it didn't work instantly, but after a few days and a good rain, you could start to see the grass was dying a little in a couple spots, and maybe a week and a half after that it was totally clear what it said. You could kind of fill in the blanks and figure it out sooner though. His parents bought it and thought he was acting out against them and put him into therapy that lasted the rest of the school year at least. He also was on restriction for forever it seemed. The next year, he was in a private church school and none of us saw him around the neighborhood much. He quit being a dick to all of us, and years later I heard someone bring it up at a reunion. From what I heard, he turned out okay and was a pretty decent guy. I always felt bad about messing up his folks' lawn, but he had it coming. This all happened when I was a young man, around 21 yo. I was sharing a flat with another young bloke in a Perth suburb. I had not long had my first car, an old 1972 beat up old Ford Falcon, you know, base model, slightly rusted, air conditioned floor etc. I'm 50 now, so quite a long time ago. I loved my old Ford. It was roomy, comfortable, and reliable. As a part of the large block of flats we lived in, each flat was given 2 parking spaces, one undercover and one open. My spot, clearly numbered with a 2 in a large white paint digit, was the open space. All was well for a few months. I was getting along really well with my flatmate, and we got along with our other neighbors. Enter entitled person. He drove a fairly new BMW, nice and flash. Whilst I was at work, he took it upon himself to allow himself to steal my spot. In Australia, the Ford Falcon was one of the largest cars on the road, and parking it was difficult. It would be classed as a mid-sized or even compact in the USA. I get home, and my spot is occupied. Damn. Off I go to find someone else's spot to borrow for the night. I ask Unit 1, as I know they don't have a car, and they were quite accommodating to me. Still, I go inside and write a note for the owner of the BMW and neatly place it under his windscreen wiper, hoping that a polite request would do the trick. Nope. Next day, same thing. Now I'm getting a little irritated. I repeated the previous night's efforts, but made the knot bigger and a tad ruder. I know he got the message, because the bits of paper were gone. Day 3, same again. It's the weekend. Unit 1 couldn't lend me their spot, as they had visitors. Okay, fair enough. I park my big old Falcon across the front of the BMW, blocking it in. I wasn't going anywhere that weekend. Next morning, BMW was gone. Somehow it managed to slip the coupe. I steal my spot back again. That evening, the BMW did to me what I did to him, blocking me in. I see red. Upset me is not nice me. I'm patient. I bide my time. Monday morning, he's gone, and I go to work. Monday evening, yep, you guessed it, spot taken again. Fair dinkum, does this guy think he owns the spot? Revenge mode. New note, on a sheet of A4 paper, written on his windscreen with big black texture, the kind that goes through the page. Full sheet is stuck to his windscreen with that horrible masking tape that always leaves something behind when it's peeled off. Next day, note gone and BMW still in my spot. Okay, same again with the note. Rude to the extreme, kindly explaining to the BMW why in the 7 dark levels of HL he shouldn't park in someone else's spot, maybe even referring to his dubious parentage. I then get out the big gun, my silicone gel. I use the entire tube, plastering every last square millimeter of the page, and stuck it to his windscreen, right in front of where his eyes would look through at the road. Try ignoring that. When I go to leave for work next morning, the BMW is gone, nowhere to be seen. I saw it further down the car park a couple of days later, with a brand new windscreen. Needless to say, he never parked in my spot again. In fact, neither did anyone else. Ever. I moved into a new school during freshman year. I didn't want to move from my old school, because that's where all my best friends were, but I had to, since it was more efficient, and saved us money on gas. In Aho, during freshman year, I gave the impression that I was smart and knew everything. This was because my old school taught us in the way to get us ready for college and stuff. Also, I listened to URB, so that came in handy for my history class. In Aho, let's skip to sophomore year, the year I'm currently in. It was the start of the year. Now, I was still known as the smart kid and I didn't like being called that, mainly because it gets annoying. Throughout the day, people kept coming up to ask me to copy, and they would take it, even when I said no, and so they would take my paper in order to copy answers, and this was a problem, because I could never finish any work, and I had to ask for an extra day to do them. It soon got to the point where they would just grab my paper and pass it around the class, so they can copy, and I would just sit there either on my phone, or drawing in my sketchbook. By the time my paper was brought back, class was over and I had to turn it in the next day. I got tired of this, and so I started to think of a way to get these people to stop taking my stuff, and I did. I did 2 different things for my assignments and for tests, since that's the things they would copy. Now, for assignments, I would ask my teachers for an extra copy. 1 copy was for wrong answers, the other for the right ones. I got the first copy of the assignment and put down wrong answers. As soon as that happened, someone would get my paper, copied it and pass it around. While that happened, I took out the other copy and used that one to write down the correct ones. The entire class turned in their assignments with wrong answers, while mine was the only one that was correct all the way. I did this for about a month and a half. Tests are a big part of our grade, so for tests, the people wouldn't copy of my Scantron, but would instead copy of the test packet. So, what I did, I would put the wrong answer on the packet, while I filled in the correct answer on the Scantron. This worked, and soon, everyone's grade began to go down, and they asked the teachers why, and they would said they were failing their assignments as well as their tests. Soon, everyone realized I was giving them the wrong answers on purpose, and I was the only one that was passing. They all asked me why did I do that and stuff, and I always gave them the same answer, which was cause, and everyone soon began to do retests so they wouldn't fail. Long story short, I'm still known as the smart kid, but no one calls me that anymore, and no one takes my paper anymore. Did you enjoy this video? Leave a like and subscribe to Brody for more.